the round face, the nose, if you see on the side.
Welcome to this episode, which kind of serves as a teaser for this larger documentary series on Bitcoin adoption in Latin America that we are making. And before we jump in, a quick shout out to our sponsor, Bare Bitcoin. And unfortunately, it will only be available for our Norwegian viewers or listeners. But if you're in Norway and haven't checked out the Bare Bitcoin app yet, then dude, what are you waiting for? Bare Bitcoin is a simple, no-nonsense platform that makes buying Bitcoin easy and secure. Recently, they also added the sell Bitcoin function, but we don't use that now, do we? Anyways, it's the only place that I use to buy Bitcoin myself because they focus exclusively on Bitcoin. No shitcoins, no distractions, which is exactly why I trust them and why I feel comfortable recommending them to you, your colleagues, or even that older family member that you have orange pilled during Christmas and is about to buy their first sats. Bare Bitcoin's app is super easy to use. You can log in with this Norwegian VIPS system, and they even have educational content to help people learn more about Bitcoin. If you want to give it a shot, then use our referral code Bitcoinsnakk, and then you'll get a special 150 kroner bonus when you sign up. Now, let's get into today's episode with Ricky from Lago Bitcoin, who traveled all the way from Montreal in Canada to be here in Oslo. Before he takes the stage on our Oslo Plebs meetup, where he's going to talk about Lago Bitcoin, this Bitcoin circular economy initiative in Panajachel in Guatemala, and you'll find his talk in the next episode.
On YouTube only, unfortunately.
Then I get a chance to sit down with him and dive into his journey into the Bitcoin space. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Actually, one last thing. So if you're confused about why I speak in English all of a sudden, maybe you're used to listening to our Norwegian podcasts. Well, part of the reason is that the interview is in English. The other part of the reason is that this episode will be available on several platforms. So our regular Norwegian podcast platform, but also on our brand new English-speaking YouTube channel, Bitcoin Talks, where we later will release this whole Latin America documentary series. Yeah, so check us out on different platforms. Like and subscribe and all that shit.
Welcome to Norway.
Thank you.
How did you find Oslo?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, for an architect, obviously, it's it's a dream. It's paradise.
Which part of Oslo did you like the best? The
Oh,
new
right.
parts with
We didn't have that much time, right? So
Gotcha.
we've been more like in the city, in the center.
Yeah.
But for an architect, whenever you walk, you have to stop and look around. There's
Yeah.
obviously with all the history.
Yeah.
Compared to North America, North
Yeah.
America was built maybe like there's 200 years ago
Yeah.
or something like that. That
Yeah.
you have buildings of interest.
Yeah.
Here, I mean, you can find things that go way back. So everything. Well,
Yeah.
it's a major city in Europe, so you have the same feeling in Europe. It's like you stop and say, "Oh, you're amazed." You're there like, "Oh," and then, obviously in architecture, you have the trade, and with all the years, you start looking at like all the details. So every detail is beautiful. So I mean, it's an amazing time. Yeah.
Happy you like it.
Yeah.
What do you think about the new architecture, like the opera, the Monk Museum? Did you get to see those?
I get to see those, and obviously I sent some images to my friends back home. They're all jealous. Because for their opera house, there was a competition. I was reading, right? So, I think it was 2008 or something like that. And when I was in university in early 2000s or end of the 90s, there was a competition, opera house, but in Denmark, in Copenhagen.
Ah, yeah.
So we spent a semester working on that project, like if we were competing. So it was an amazing experience. So I already have some experience in opera houses. So seeing this one, it was obviously beautiful and amazing, but it reminded a little bit of all the designs we did that were like similar, because you always have this main hall and this box that comes out. It's so big that it has to be like that. But I know there's an issue with contemporary architecture and Bitcoiners.
I mean, that was...
But when it's well done, Because the thing that we have to understand is that there's construction is so different now than back then, and there's all the regulations, and everything has changed. All the labor is expensive, obviously because of the system. We
Yeah.
don't live in the right system, but at least here in Europe, there's a feeling of importance of architecture because you guys have so much history, so much built material that you can't just allow anybody to build anything and destroy your city. So obviously, there's in the population, everybody knows that it's important that you have to build something beautiful, that it has to really integrate itself in the city. That's something that we lack, like you'd say in North America. Obviously, in Guatemala, we're lacking everything, but in North America, it's the money, it's the square feet. How do you maximize the square feet? How do you pay less? So obviously, from a Bitcoiner eye, you see that what's being built is disappointing because there's no incentive to have something beautiful. But when you go back in history, we even in North America there were like beautiful buildings. It's just at some point, obviously, many things happened, but things change, and there's like now the budget is limited everywhere. The labor is expensive compared to what it was before. So let's say in North America, we won't build with masonry, but we will use masonry in regions like Guatemala because labor is cheap, so you can use the masonry. But if you use masonry, you have like beautiful buildings because they're like the material is heavier, stronger. It looks more imposing. So it's obviously you have more chances of having something that will last longer. In
Yeah.
North America, we will use materials a little bit like here that are like lighter, so it's less expensive for the labor. And we also have now technology that's very different.
Gotcha.
Like when you build a wall, you have to think about the insulation, how vapor is going to go through it, and it's something that the building is more comfortable than old buildings. If you go to old buildings, you're always either too cold or too hot, or
Yeah.
you always there's this discomfort that now the building is like a science project. We have so many engineers now. It's all mechanical, the
Yeah.
plumbing, the electricity. So, I mean, it's so different. It's so difficult to compare. So, I understand why Bitcoiners are a little bit disappointed. But in another sense, there's a lot of work
Yeah.
from a lot of people to build a building. So,
That's
you
interesting.
gotta be in the trade to understand it.
Yeah. I never thought about that. Like back in the days, they could build. I mean, buildings could be built to be beautiful and durable.
Yeah.
They have to be built in order
They
for
didn't
people
have
to
any
live in them.
regulations back then. I
Yeah.
mean, there weren't any fire exits that had to be like this wide, and the doors and the fire stops and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
now in North America, I don't know how it is here, but in North America, so everything's very legal. Every year it gets worse. So it's
Yeah.
all about, if I do this, am I going to get sued? Okay,
Yeah.
no. So I'm gonna put like an extra door here, an extra exit. And so it's not a the building loses its the idea is being lost by all these things
Yeah.
around it that you put that you don't really need, let's say, or you do too much security. So it's always a balance.
Yeah. Gotcha. I guess it's time to introduce you.
yeah.
And I guess you've sort of given us some hints already. You're an architect. You live in North
Yeah.
America,
Yeah, Montreal.
Montreal to be specific.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about how you, I don't know, got into Bitcoin. Tell me about your engagement with Lago Bitcoin.
Yeah. So I started in 2013. Um, Back then, it was like impossible to get information. There was like no podcasts, no books, no nothing. And you had to be like I didn't understand. I didn't really understand what I was looking at. Obviously, if I would have, things will be much different. But back then, it was fun, but it was very quiet everywhere. In Montreal, there were like some people of interest there. They were building stuff, but you had to be like in the community to. You had to know there was a community. And so I was doing my thing, and got interested in. Back in the day, you were making mistakes all the time, getting rug pulled, losing money here and there, not really understanding what you were doing.
Yeah.
It was really more like 2016, 17, 18, when like some podcasts came around. There were like some books, and also all the toxic maximalists were like super important too, because most of it people get there for a number to go up. You just go there like, oh, okay, this is. You kind of grasp what it is. It's like, oh, it's a limited supply of. It can be whatever, like
Sure.
tokens, whatever. You know, the limited supply of something's gonna create demand. So it's like a no-brainer. So you say, okay, this sounds interesting. Let's go. But obviously, you don't put all your wealth because you don't understand what it is. So you dip your toes, and slowly you kind of like start like learning more. You will never learn everything that's to learn. But at least you can be functional. So, time passes, you make big mistakes, you get rope pulled, the exchanges go down, you lose all your money, you start again, you make mistakes, you send it to the wrong addresses. Back then, obviously, experimenting with 0.1, 0.2, whatever. So now it's a big number, but
Yeah.
back then it was like, okay, a week's salary or whatever. So you kind of you think that people that start soon are gonna be like super mega rich. Reality is so different. It's like it was like an obstacle course. It's like running and you don't know if you're gonna fall down or.
And probably
So-
important mistakes like that paved the way for like learning and better solutions and
Yeah, and I think the mistakes are important because you learn your lessons, and it's the humility that you gain, so you're more humble. So I've always been a person that's very. I fly below the radar because it's in Canada. It's like I don't know if it's the same thing here, but there's a stigma, and it's like everything that you read everywhere is like, oh, Bitcoin is bad.
sure.
You're gonna lose your money, and obviously the system is gonna. That's the position that the system wants to sell it to you, so that you can still use your fiat money, dollars, whatever.
Yeah.
And plus now, it's been a couple of years that you have to declare everything that you have in Canada.
Yeah.
So officially, I don't have anything.
Gotcha.
Because
There was a
there's KYC
boating
road.
accident involved, perhaps.
There's a KYC road and there's a non-KYC road. Funny story. I'm sorry, it can't be long because I have so many stories. A funny story. There was this hack back in Canada, like I don't know, 5 years ago. There was a hack, Quadriga.
Okay. Like an exchange.
It's an exchange hack.
yeah.
The guy, he just left with all the keys. And he died in India. Well, supposedly died in India, but maybe he's alive somewhere else. It's this guy. Everybody knows him.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. So you gotta be old to have lived it. So anyway, that was the okay, funniest story. Back in the day, you had some Bitcoin, and you were always trying to find a way to make more Bitcoin with the Bitcoin you had.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
back in the day, we didn't have that habit of DCA and all that stuff. Right? Those were the old days.
Yeah.
So you had your Bitcoin, and then you were looking everywhere, like, okay, how can I make more Bitcoin with the Bitcoin I have? So obviously, there's the altcoin route, but it's like so dangerous. So no, I'm not gonna do that. So I was always looking for ways to have this. Find ways to like make like oh, maybe if I put it here it goes faster, so I can like transfer the money. And so back in the day, Quadriga was going down, and I was saving all the bear market. I was saving. I was there like, okay, I'm gonna buy the bottom. So I was saving. It's like a year of savings or whatever. And then it was close to the bottom, and everybody was failing back then. And Quadriga started failing, but obviously when they failed, there's no publicity about it, right? It's just that people aren't getting their money back.
Yeah.
But it takes a time before you know it,
Yeah.
because they're not doing it, so there's complaints and all that stuff.
Yeah. Like with the tsunami, when the water
Yeah.
slowly starts to be pulled back.
So on the website there was like bonus, 15% bonus if you if you deposit your Bitcoin. I was there like, exactly what I was looking for. I'm gonna make 15%. It's like arbitrage.
Ah.
Oh my god, it's so funny now that all these years pass. It's like the sites where you or the emails or the text, like, here's my address, send me some Bitcoin, I'm gonna send you, I'm gonna double it. So it's the same rug pull.
Yeah.
So anyway, I sent my stuff. Obviously, it appeared in the screen. I was already okay, good. So now I can just take it out. I did my request to cash out. Obviously, nothing happened.
Nothing came.
48 hours later, the site was down, everything was closed, and the government closed it. It was all finished. So, oh man, so many mistakes. So, another mistake was declaring the loss.
Okay.
Because
Like
you declare to the government that
Yeah.
you have some coin, and obviously,
Yeah. To get a
probably
tax
exposed
refund,
forever.
or just to
Well, to
not
get something back from
Yeah.
because it went to court and everything, because they found some little amounts.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Anyway, years pass by, and my claim, they say it's a dollar claim, not a Bitcoin claim.
Yeah.
Because I sent the Bitcoin, but on the website I said, please pay me back. So it's like a withdrawal in cash.
Okay.
So Ernst and Young, which is
Yeah.
the auditor,
Yeah.
was there like, okay, your claim is in dollars. So I was there like, no, my claim's not in dollars. I sent the real Bitcoin. So one day they start paying back people. I received like pennies, because they were like paying back like a percentage of your claim. But since mine was in dollars, it was like,
Yeah.
so all that was an experience. It was like, okay, now I get it. You learn so many. You learn so many lessons.
Learn the hodling way, the hard way.
Yeah, you learn like and declaring this out well. So now it's all non-KYC and not looking back. So I always keep. I'm a like low radar, low. So same thing. Yeah, same thing for Lago Bitcoin.
Yeah. Can you tell any listeners who doesn't know what Lago Bitcoin is? Just give them like the elevator pitch.
Yes, Lago Bitcoin is a circular economy project. It's like an NGO, without officially declaring that it's an NGO, because we're Bitcoiners and we don't like paperwork. Let's say that we're officially lazy. So we're there, and we do our thing. So now we are officially three. Eleazar.
Yeah.
Jose, I don't know if you had a chance to meet.
No,
He's,
unfortunately, no.
He's helping out. He's the volunteer. And myself. So
Yeah.
we're officially three. Happy to be from Guatemala. So it's important.
Yeah.
Because when you want to rebuild, you want to, you want local people to rebuild.
For sure.
I think it has to, foreigners rebuilding places they don't know. I think that has to stop a little bit in the sense that, you have to coach people, locals, you have to help them out. You can bring them up to speed.
Yeah.
You can, you can lead a project and then slowly try to find somebody to hand it over.
Yeah.
Because ideally, what you want is for like people to rebuild their country in a sound way. So I think that's a good thing that we're like from Guatemala.
Yeah.
And because obviously we're like trying to build something for all our people.
Yeah.
And having help from everybody else in the international community because we receive lots of help. So I think it's important because the image we're giving is not that we're being saved by a savior. It's like no, we're like building it yourselves.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit like Norway. It's like
Yeah.
it was built by Norwegians. I mean, it's if you're like super efficient, everything that's extraordinary here. It's not something. It's not somebody else that built it. It's you guys pulled yourselves together and made it happen.
It must be way more trustworthy as well if you're like a local business owner in Panajachel, that like Eleazar comes and talks to you about Bitcoin,
Yeah.
and maybe his family, or he's a local,
Yeah.
rather than some, I don't know, American coming and you don't know, like, is he gonna be here next week? Is he gonna like
What is he selling me?
Yeah.
Is he selling me more Jesus?
Yeah, exactly. What is he telling me? Yeah, and for those who is listening to this out of the context of the documentary that I'm now editing from Guatemala, Eleazar is
So Eleazar
one of the local
is
guys
our man underground.
on the ground. Yeah,
It's, the only one that's full-time employee, let's say.
Yeah.
Because we won't go further on. We're lazy with paperwork.
right. The laziness.
He's the man on the ground, and everything revolves around him, and it's a little bit. That's the design. The design is because he lives next door in another village, like 5 minutes from there.
Yeah.
So
So he doesn't live in Panajachel specifically.
no, because people in Panajachel, it's like a hub. People go there. Some people live there, obviously, but most of the people that do business, because everybody has to, at some point, go to Panajachel.
Right.
Because that's where you will find all the services, everything that you need. If you need to buy something, whatever, you're going to find it in Pana.
Yes.
So it's easier for everybody to go to Pana. So, like Eleazar was working in a restaurant in Pana before. So that's before working for Lago Bitcoin, but he was commuting every day back and forth, and a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Because it's a hub.
And it's super nice with the boats.
That's important.
So it's like a big lake, and there's
That's
lots of villages or towns around the lake, and then
That's right.
and then so I guess that's a good image to give the listeners that you have this rather big city called Panajachel, and then you have the smaller towns around the lake, and then there goes boats like
That's right.
from
That's
Panajachel everywhere.
It's very important because Lake Atitlan is one of the 3 main tourist attractions in Guatemala. There's Antigua, the old capital. There's Lake Atitlan, and there's Tikal, the Mayan ruins. snapshots were in Star Wars, so people go crazy to.
Okay. I see.
So Lake Atitlan has always been a main place in Guatemala, and it's very important, especially for the indigenous people that live there. It's like a sacred place. So the lake has 11 villages that surround it, and many more uphill, because it's leftover of volcanoes, and it created a bed where all the water came in after many years, and it's the deepest lake in the Central America.
Is it?
And it's funny because there's some Mayan ruins underneath the water. So that were found 15 years ago. There was a sacred Mayan site where people were going to pray there. And obviously it was flooded later on.
Okay.
But the site exists. It's small, but still, it's a Mayan site with some ruins.
Cool.
So it's still interesting.
Do they know how it got flooded, or? I guess that's a side note.
True time. There were because so many volcanoes in that area, so something happened.
Yeah.
So I think what's most important to remember is that it's a place out of time, because you don't use a car. You have to go. You go around with a boat, lancha it's called in Spanish, and you have that feeling. If people, some people went to Venice, it's the same feeling of walking, walking through the city of Venice, taking the Vaporetto, going through all the other islands. It takes you. It takes you out of time, because you're not driving with a car or taking a bus or whatever. It's timeless. So I think that's the beauty of that place, and it's very romantic and very soul. It's good for the soul when you're in your boat, middle of the lake. There's something that comes and gets you, surrounded by all those volcanoes, the nature, all that stuff, and it's huge. So I guess it's like looking at one of the Norwegian fjords. It has to be the same experience of the greatness of nature, and the smallness of men.
Yeah.
And it humbles you.
Yeah.
So I think it's very people. There's a village called San Marcos. People since the 70s, people have been going there. There's yoga retreats. There's so many health and wellness oriented places there, because the site is amazing. It's there for people to enjoy. So it's if you want to get in contact with nature, that's the best place to go. You won't do that in a city, in an urban city. Obviously, it won't work. So I think that's the beauty. And our project, what's important is there's already an identity, a strong identity, because we're in indigenous lands. There's 3 main languages and peoples, Mayan peoples, around the lake. So, and all the villages are colorful, like you saw. They all have their identity. So we don't want to change that. We want to improve it. It's bring Bitcoin in a subtle way, to integrate ourselves. Because those places are already known. They already exist. They have their own cultures. So it's a respectful way of integrating ourselves to that. So I think that's very important for us, to whatever we do, is to think beforehand of what we're doing, the impacts that we're going to have, and trying to find a subtle way of doing it. But obviously we have the Bitcoin boat.
Yeah. I didn't get to see the Bitcoin boat, but I saw some other influencers on YouTube taking it for a spin. No, but that's when you were talking just now, I was sort of thinking that's an important thing, and it's almost like I was thinking that maybe Bitcoin shouldn't always be like the most important thing. Maybe there are like other more important things, and then Bitcoin can come in and sort of facilitate or fix some problems. But as you say, it's more important the sort of the community, the tradition, the history of the area is the most important thing. And then if Bitcoin can be of help and facilitate like economic growth or I don't know if there's an unbanked population or if Bitcoin can be of help, that's a good thing. But there are sort of more important things than Bitcoin. Would you agree?
Obviously, your relationships, your kids, your family, all that stuff. But I think Bitcoin is important to us because it just happened.
Right.
Like 15 years ago, so it has a big impact on our lives because we're like the first generation living through such a change, especially if you've been in Bitcoin for a long time. Eventually you get to a Bitcoin standard where Canada doesn't know it, but
hopefully Trudeau doesn't listen to Bitcoinsnakk.
When you reach the Bitcoin standard, life is so different, and I think that's why for us we have this tendency to put the logo everywhere, and you can accept it here, big logo. But I think that eventually is going to slow down as more people are going to, be part of the movement. And at some point, I think we're just going to go back to normal, where we have normal priorities. And Bitcoin's just going to be a tool that's already integrated in our system. And I think, I don't know if we still are going to have all the fiat system that is backed by Bitcoin or whatever. I don't know how it's going to happen in the future, but I think it's just the need to put the images everywhere is going to slow down, and we're just going to go back to what we were doing before, which was doing, like, obviously Norway doing beautiful things, and in North America just making money.
Yeah. Sure. Like since Eleazar has come up a few times here, I can't help but notice that both you and Eleazar, you have this very this sense of humor and this laughter that really that it can really catch on. Are you related, or is that the Panajachel sort of way?
We're not related, but it's the people there. We're like that. We're like that. We're like,
in Guatemala or in Panajachel?
In Guatemala. Well, I will say all Latinos, but I think all Latinos are like, joyful.
Yeah.
Because obviously I've been a couple of days here looking at Norwegians, cool. You guys are like cool, efficient, on time. Latinos
That's a nice way to say it.
Latinos are like chaos. We're late.
Right.
We're like, oh my God, we're so terrible. We're just like party.
I've been to Latin America a few times, mostly Colombia, but and I have a feeling that I love being on vacation in Colombia and in Latin America, but I have a feeling it would be a pain in the ass working in Latin America.
You have no idea. You have no idea how hard it is once you experience efficiency.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. When I go back to Guatemala, like, I have a list of tasks that I want to accomplish. If I was in North America, I know that I'm going to, like, do this, do that, and by the end of the day, it's going to be finished. And then the next day, I'm going to go, and I know this week, I'm going to do this. Next month, this is going to be done. And Guatemala, oh my God, like all the Latin countries is like, oh, if you can get one task done per day, that's a good achievement. And, oh my God, and finding people trustworthy, are that are gonna be reliable. It's so hard. It's because we don't have the same. We're not wired the same way, and yeah. So I mean, for us, it's cool to go there and we enjoy it and we're like rich and all that stuff. But living there, I guess it has to be very different, and it has to come with your frustrations. Because let's say you want to get somewhere full of traffic, they don't believe in public transport. Everybody has a car, so obviously you're jammed. And it's getting worse by years. 10 years, it wasn't that bad. 20 years, it wasn't that bad. But now it's very bad. But there's no, obviously, security and all those reasons. That's why people want to use their own cars.
Yeah.
So the government doesn't, there's no security. So that means that everybody has to take their own car, which means that, nobody takes the bus. So that means that all the roads are jammed. And all these, the ripple effect.
Ripple effects, yeah.
That's why El Salvador, if you go to El Salvador, you experience the difference.
Yeah.
Like everything is, security brings many, many more things.
Yeah.
So there's security, I'm not worried. I can send my kids in the bus. I can go do another thing. I don't have to drive the kids. So, I mean, it has the ripples effects. They're so important. So, Guatemala is, you go to El Salvador, it's like Guatemala. It's like Guatemala before security, before the cleanup.
Yeah.
So, it's, chaos is fun, but every day it has to be, has to be heavy at some point. It has to be it takes a toll on you. So I think, great place, but I don't know, you have to lower your expectancies if you want to be there longer time.
Yeah, I guess so. So tell me, how did Lago Bitcoin start? You can start answering. I'll attend to the issues
so many
over
alarms
here.
going off.
Let's see what this is. Yeah.
So Lago Bitcoin is an idea it's like what happened in El Salvador with El Zonte, aka Bitcoin Beach. It's like they proved that you could build a site where everybody could use Bitcoin, because back in the day, nobody had that idea. Nobody thought we were going to be able one day to use Bitcoin in our everyday transactions. So when they succeeded in El Zonte, in Bitcoin Beach, that was for us, a lot of people around the world now, it's like, okay, it's an example of what could be achieved. And so you think, look, if it works there, why doesn't it work here? And, we're there like, Bitcoin is cool, is good for us, number go up. But what about, sharing that with our people? So Lago Bitcoin was an idea to replicate a little bit of Bitcoin Beach and El Zonte and everything that we're doing. And it was an idea, that many people had, went around the community. But back in the day in 2021, nobody was doing anything about it. So our ex-colleague and friend, Patrick Melder, his name is, because he's still there, exists. And he was there like, oh, I have contacts in Pana. I can launch it. I can, let's do it. And I made, before launching in 2022, I met him and we had some talks. And I was there like, okay, Because with all my experience, I knew that 2022 was the bear market, and I didn't want to launch.
You didn't want to launch during the bear
It's the
market.
worst time to launch such a project because you're just gonna lose money and lose big because things are going to go down.
Yeah.
So I was there like, oh no, he's really like motivated. And he wasn't stopping. He was like a train, runaway train. So I was there like, oh, he's going for it. I was there like, oh man. So I gotta go because I didn't want him to lead the project without any Guatemalan presence because it was going to look bad. It was going to look bad for the project and look bad for us because once again we're going to be saved by our
American.
another person, white
Yeah.
person, American, whatever.
Gringo.
So I was there like, oh, what about timing? But we gotta go because he's like runaway train, right? So we launched, and at the beginning it was just we had he had contacts in the school, so it was just like giving classes to the kids in the school.
Okay.
But we didn't have any businesses back then, and Eleazar wasn't there.
And he's not based in Guatemala himself or in Panajachel?
No, he was based in Atlanta,
Right.
and he did 1 year, 2022, and a little bit of 2023. He stepped down because he had some personal issues.
Gotcha.
So anyway, so back then there was obviously nothing. So it was only classes in the school, and Patrick met Eleazar. He told me, I found this great guy. Maybe we can work. We can do something. It's like we have somebody that's there. Obviously, he was in Atlanta. I was in Montreal. And I was there like, okay, good. Let's try something. So he gave me his contact. I called Eleazar. Said, you want to work? I don't know exactly what we're trying to do. But let's see if there's something that we can do. And so I started asking him for some research. Do some research, do this. And then I had this idea, okay, maybe he can be like a middleman for exchanges, and maybe if he makes some profit, that can pay his salary. We were trying stuff back in the day. There was no demand, so that idea wasn't worth it. At some point, there's just enough research that you can have. So we came in contact with the guys from Bitcoin Beach and told them, look, we found this guy. Could you help us? And maybe he can start working and, orange peeling businesses around the lake. So we had a donation from Bitcoin Beach, a donation from Galoy, different donations here and there. We were pumping our own money also. And that's how we started. And Eleazar came to, we actually, beforehand, we sent him to El Zonte in 2022.
Field trip?
Yeah, it was because he was starting from scratch. And we weren't there to, show him, because you know how much time it takes to understand it, especially if you have to explain it.
Yeah.
You have to master it at some point. So we sent him to El Zonte for a week. He met everybody in 2022. And I think it was a great move because we weren't anything back then. And it was like Bitcoin Beach was a little bit smaller. So when Eleazar went there, it was like a smaller group. So the integration was better and it was more intimate. So people really got to know him. He got to know the people, and now everybody knows Eleazar. So I think that was an important part of the process. Was like it was like a little mini formation, let's say, to send him there. So when he came back, he had a better understanding, as good as you can get, of 40 hours of training. But at least he saw firsthand how they were doing it over there in El Zante. I think they had like 10 shops or something back in the day that were accepting Bitcoin, because he didn't have that experience. So it was important for me to send him there so he can visualize and see what we're trying to do in Guatemala and in Lago Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So when he came back all motivated. And I think it took him like a month or 2 months to get some businesses onboarded.
Mm-hmm.
But then I think in 6 months he did like 60 businesses.
Wow.
Yeah. The guy was a machine.
Yeah.
And back in the day, in 2022, when he reached the goal of 60 in 60 months, we were like the only circular economy that was like, that had so many businesses.
You were
back
the
in the day.
biggest circular economy.
Wow. Yeah, that's the one with the most businesses accepting
gotcha,
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because now there's more that have more than us.
Yeah, like Berlin, I guess.
Berlin, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because we had to stop. We had to stop because at some point there's not enough Bitcoin incoming. Because the only way really that Bitcoin can enter the economy is like if Bitcoiners go there and visit and spend.
Yeah.
Because people are not like going to buy.
No.
They don't have that.
No.
I don't know why, but they don't have that. There's like the extra step of going out of your way to go to use an ATM or whatever. So it doesn't work that way. So they just accept it and keep it. And
So you actually had to stop recruiting new businesses because there wasn't enough Bitcoins.
We had
Interesting.
to stop. We had to stop because if we let go Eleazar, if we let him go crazy, I mean, we can end up with like 1,000 places, and there won't be enough. Because I mean, over there, what you have to understand is that it's a cash society. You experienced it, right?
Cash is king.
Yeah, cash is king, and there's no, well, now there's a couple more places accepting credit cards, but we specialize. What we target is the poorest of the poor. What we want to work with, like the poorest of the poor. We really want to help them. And over there, it's an informal economy, and people, they're not regulated, whatever. The government doesn't even know what they're doing. They're selling stuff, making some just enough to live, enough to. It's a completely different world.
Yeah.
So it's all cash, and Bitcoin is perfect for them because over there everybody has a phone because they're all chatting, texting. They're all
very social,
talking to
very
their friends.
extroverted.
They're very social. They're all Instagram and Facebook. So they already have the phone. There's like good cell coverage. So all the pieces are there.
Yep.
The only thing missing was for them to have something to store their money for the long term. Because the problem over there, that's like the little businesses or once you get to a convenience store size, is that they store in product. Because they don't store in money, they store in product.
Yeah.
So if something happens, fire or robberies or whatever, they lose their money.
Yeah.
And Bitcoin for them is super important as a storage solution because they don't need to store it physically. They can store it digitally and either in US US denomination or stable dollars or in Bitcoin. So let's say they're going to do 95% stable and 5% Bitcoin.
Sure.
And that's for them. It's the perfect solution. So the next step for us is going now to the self-custody. That's the other issue.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's the next step.
Yeah. And like one thing that struck me on my journey was There was even a French guy who called it the Bitcoin dance. So you ask somewhere that is supposed to accept Bitcoin, like they're on BTC map, or someone, like a manager has decided that this store is supposed to accept Bitcoin, and then you come and ask the guy who's working that day, and quiero pagar con Bitcoin, and then they start, where's that phone? I'm gonna have to talk to my man. So that's the Bitcoin dance. Like you start seeing them becoming uneasy, and it's like it sort of tells me that Bitcoin is, in addition to being a monetary system, like it's also sort of a skill, like or it's a skill set. You need
you need some training. You need a volume to get comfortable.
Yeah, and you need that phone to be charged, the one you're supposed to.
Yeah, there's so many.
So if you once a business that is recruited into a circular economy starts becoming passive, starts becoming inactive, that is a big threat, I imagine, to the whole.
Well, it's always it's like a little bit like nature that's always constantly struggling. There's some survival, and everything's always in motion, erosion. It's the same thing with those businesses, is that there's movement of employees, there's this and that. So there's always continuously there's challenges.
Right.
And what we do is that the business, helping businesses, we don't make any money. We just help them, and we're not making money there. We're not making money anywhere, especially there.
Too lazy to make money.
So those businesses, it's like if they needed like someone support somebody that is always going to be there. It's like, okay, you have a new employee, let me show him. So we don't have that person, right? So that's always going to be a challenge. It's like when Eleazar has a time, he can show them, but it's at some point, I've been thinking about, because it's a problem we've been having for 4 years. And philosophically, I have been thinking about that, and I was there like, our objective is really to introduce Bitcoin, to be like the beacon, like the Batman sign in Guatemala, to say, if you have questions, whatever you want to know more about Bitcoin, we're there, you can come and see us.
Yeah.
I was there like, I don't think it's our job to help a business make money, and I don't think it's our duty. We did that in the beginning to get things rolling, but at some point I think we need people to sort of take responsibility. I think that's a big lesson in Bitcoin, is that you take responsibility of your wealth. Either you leave your wealth in the fiat system, and you obviously authorize people that you don't know to mess around with your wealth, or you feel self-responsibility and you take custody. And so I think it's a little bit of the same idea. It's like businesses, we introduced it, we proved them that it's better for them in all ways. So it's up to them to make the extra step. So I think that's the fair way of doing, because the most important thing that we're doing right now is giving classes to kids in schools. I think that's, for us, top priority. Yeah. We're like very low time preference. Like we're not marketing ourselves everywhere and saying we're the best, or it's like, no, that's not us. We're like low time preference, targeting the future generations, getting them up to speed, comfortable. There's so many people anyway, so our maximum efforts are really now teaching kids, and the businesses, onboarding businesses, we can do that if necessary, but it's not our main objective now, because we have enough places already for Bitcoiners to spend. So if ever somebody comes to us and say, oh, you know what, I want to accept Bitcoin, we're going to do it. We're going to give the same service. All going to be the same. It's just that we our limited resources won't be mainly for that. So
Makes a lot of sense.
yeah.
Yeah. And how many businesses does now accept Bitcoin in
We reached
Panajachel?
100 maybe 1 year after we started. So maybe by end of 2022, we reached like 100 in Pana. There's obviously more around the lake, but we don't really want to stretch ourselves. The idea is to obviously be all around the lake, but the other thing that's different with us is that we're very like grassroots. We're not top down. It's like we're completely the contrary of all the government intervention. It's like what happened in El Salvador that was a top down. It's like you guys have to use Bitcoin. We're like the opposites. It's like we want to convince you. We want the idea of Lago Bitcoin. I've been thinking about it for many years. It's like I think we need to change the mentality of people. We need to find a way to convince them that they have to take control of their own wealth and of their own life and not expect a government, a group, NGOs or whatever to help them. And I think all these years people have been there like, okay, we don't have anything. We're expecting the government to, give us this handout to make this and that. But with this technology, we don't need that anymore. You can work hard, stop eating like they're doing already anyway, start saving, and those savings put in Bitcoin, if you last 4 years, it's going to make a major impact. And it's completely going to change the way you perceive things and the way you experience, the way you're buying, all the way you consume is different. All if you fully understand what's happening, it's all going to change all the patterns that you do, and you're going to start saving more, spending less, being careful with what you consume. Instead of those jeans, you're gonna give them an extra year instead of replacing that. I mean, then you're gonna start thinking long term.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we want to achieve, is that we want to change people's mentality. We want them to be self-sovereign in a certain way, that they're going to be able to take care of themselves in the long term. It doesn't mean that the society as a system doesn't need to be social. That's something else. Sure. But as an individual, the first thing that you got to do is to take responsibility and try to make the most that you can with the tools that you have. So I think if we manage to somehow tilt a little bit the needle that way, we're going to be successful. So I think that's all. The philosophy is very different. It comes from really the bottom. So we're slow building blocks. I think we kind of know where we're going to go in the future, but we're slowly building, and less marketing, more building.
Sorry about that.
Because you've seen Eleazar. He's walking, teaching. He's doing the hard work every day. So
Indeed.
Less marketing, more work. So I think people, when they come to Pana, they're surprised that we're like only 3.
Yeah.
And there's like they're waiting for a building. It's like where are you guys at?
Yeah.
No, we don't have the funds for having a place. We don't have the funds for this. We don't have the funds there, and it's on purpose. It's on purpose because we have to attain it. We have to ourselves as a project. We have to make it there by ourselves. It's like we have to. At some point, it's going to come, but we're not there yet. So we don't want it to have it free, because that's going to have the wrong. It's going to send the wrong message. So everything that we have to attain it by ourselves. So that's the other philosophy that we're bringing, is that it's more profound. What's happening there? It's not like it's very different from other places. That's a little bit the message.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very nice to hear that this has all been sort of thought through, and it sounds like a really, like you say, grassroots, and also a very long-term
Yeah.
idea behind it. And
Exactly.
that's what I saw
Mm.
on the ground when I was there as well.
Yeah.
And you say that sort of building this mentality to save, start saving money, like thinking more long term. And one observation I had, like in Guatemala, but also in Central America in general, was that this whole hodling mentality that a lot of Bitcoiners have in Norway and I guess in the Western hemisphere. It wasn't really, it wasn't that present like in El Salvador or in Guatemala. Like people were, and I guess that comes back to people doesn't really have that much of a saving money mentality.
Yeah.
So then when they come into Bitcoin, you don't seek to hodl, you spend it, and does that make sense to you as well?
Because in the Western world, we have obviously better salaries, more opportunities to save. It's like when you're young, instead of saving, you go out. You go out with your friends. You party.
Yeah.
You blow away your money. You work for party. So we have a better capacity to save. So it's and plus all the fiat system works. Now, obviously, every year it gets better. We tap their card, we pay, and so for us in North America and in the Western world, it makes sense to hodl. Plus, with all the laws that you have to declare what you have, that you have to pay taxes, it makes no sense to spend the asset that you're holding. It's all logical and it's normal, and that's the way it has to be in the Western world. Now things are very different in Latin America, and we can see also in Africa and other places in Asia. Is that you have places where it's more like people are like struggling. It's more hand to mouth. It's more like they barely make enough to eat. So you're like in places where it's more like people are more like close to survival, and saving is possible, but very hard. We 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 know people that save, that have like low incomes, and they're like surviving day to day, and they're saving. It's possible, hard possible, because people skip meals or they do some extra little things here and there. So it's possible, but the problem is that if they're still in that cash society, they're gonna be saving in fiat or like a currency that's a proxy to the U.S. dollar that's it's pegged. So they're always going to be saving in a derivative of the dollar, or an imitation or a proxy or whatever. So obviously, if they can achieve what they can achieve, and they start saving in Bitcoin and not worrying about the volatility, it's going to have an impact on them. And I think our project, the idea is to help the people to achieve that, to guide them, and once they experience, once they obviously, it's just having a better system that doesn't erode your purchasing power. People realize, and once they see the light, our job is like almost done. Now it's different. It's like, how can we help you to self custody? How can we help you to go like further? But our work is essentially done, and now we always encourage them to learn by themselves, because you have to take responsibility of teaching yourself. You don't always have a big brother there, always giving you everything easily. We love the hard way, because that's the way to be. Bitcoin's there. If you need it, you're gonna find it. So we We are like the beacon. If you're not happy with your life, you're not happy where things are going, well, there's a solution for that. It's for you to find it. And once in your journey you start looking, well, we're gonna be there. So it's you want to make a better place. You want to make it better for your family. You want to make it better for your city, your country, whatever. Well, the solution's there. It's for you guys to make the work and realize it or not. So I think we shouldn't be hand-holding people forever. We can do that in the beginning, but at some point, it's for them to make the change in their lives.
Set them free. Yeah. And like, so if we consider sort of the lack of saving, almost if we consider that one problem, then one thought I've had after seeing Lago Bitcoin, but also Berlin and Bitcoin Beach, is that when you have like a circular economy centered around Bitcoin, you will end up sort of saving in hodling collectively, in a sense, as long as you can actually keep those Bitcoins circulating.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like you'll without anyone in particular hodling, that community will sort of hodl collectively, and then as time goes by, the economy should sort of experience monetary gains. Do you think likewise, or?
I think so, because when we started, I can't believe we did that in the supermarket. So in 2022, people, it was going down. Price was going down, and it was very hard to onboard people. And we were just promising them, no, don't worry, long term it's going to go up. So people were they're like, okay, so I'm receiving this. I don't have like the tap and all that technology. All of a sudden, I can experience digital money. Nice. Thank you for the experience. I'm getting rid of your Bitcoin. I'm cashing out. So in the beginning, we were cashing out people.
Yeah.
Eleazar was a walking ATM. They received a payment. They were calling Eleazar. Eleazar was going to cash out. Nobody knows this, but I was managing everything on the back end so that Eleazar had enough money, all that stuff. So nobody knew about that. Now I can talk about it because now it's finished. So people had this amazing experience because they could cash out instantly. With a man they could trust, and we never failed. People were always wanting to cash out. We cashed them out every time. We never failed. We did it almost every day, maybe twice was the next day, but still, because it was late, the banks were closed, all that stuff. So that built trust. So they were all cashing out. It was a circular economy because Bitcoin was circulating. But then, when we hit the bottom, and we start rising, oh my God, they were hodling like all the Westerners. All the circular part of the economy completely stopped. Everybody started like hodling. Everybody started saving, and that's when you realize that we're all human, and it's normal and understandable for Westerners to hodl. Because that's what everybody does, even in the small economies. That's what they do, and so there's no shame in that. It's just that, if possible, what we want Westerners to do is spend and replace, if possible. I'm saying if possible because, as I told you, now that I'm in non-KYC, it's more expensive to get your Bitcoin, and it's more expensive and it's a hassle. And obviously, when you're spending more. You're spending like a percentage more, so you're like hesitant. It's like, okay, I'm gonna help you out, but I'm losing here. So it's not a fair trade. So that's the message for Westerners. If possible, spend and replace.
Yeah. So there are these problems in the circulation. Whether it's a bear market, there's the problem that people want to get out of the
yes.
and when there's the bull market, people just start hodling.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And people. The other thing is that people, when it's the first time, I'm probably sure that everybody experienced that. Is that the first time that you have some money that goes up? You have 1,001 projects that you want to do. Okay, I'm going to do this with my money. Now I'm going to do this. I never traveled.
Yeah.
So they're experiencing the same thing. Is when it's going up, okay, I'm going to buy a new fridge. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It's like the lack of patience for it to go up even more. It's like once you experience the gains, you want to cash out to, go do something else. But after a long while, you understand that it's just better to let things be and do the purchase or do whatever you want to do in time when you really need it. Because you know that if you make that expense, eventually that amount that you spent is going to be even bigger way later.
All right, we are gonna have a meetup here where you're gonna have a talk, and I'll film that as well and try and share everything for people in some way.
Okay,
but
good.
are there any things that you feel like we missed or didn't get into now?
Oh
that
my
we
God,
should
we can keep. We always scratch the surface.
I had that feeling too.
We can keep on talking about Lago Bitcoin, but I think what we always want people, the message we want to send people is that we're all taking vacations here and there. We're all going, we're all traveling, and I think that Lake Atitlan, I think it's an interesting place, and I think it's worth it to be in your list of travel destinations. I think there's a way to get there safely. Obviously, we can arrange transport in Bitcoin, whatever, if people need. But I think there's the Bitcoin part that's interesting. You can buy stuff and live in Bitcoin, but I think the place in itself is worth the detour. It's worth the traveling too. And there's the richness of the indigenous culture and all the indigenous, the Mayans and all the nations. I think that's what people always come back to, is that it's a special place because there's different cultures. And it's not a monoculture like somewhere else that you go there and it's all the same. You have like different colors of life. So you have different experiences. And I think it's one of the 3 main tourist attractions for a reason. It's because you will experience nature, contact with people from that are completely different from you, and even the indigenous are different from people like us, the Latinos that are brown. They're different. So I mean, you will experience all that. And you will come back enriched. So I think.
Yeah, that's what I did. Yeah. No, for sure. I totally agree, and it's. I had that feeling that, like, on those boats that take you from the different villages, that's where everyone meets on those boats. Like there, you have some of those, some of the stops were seem like very fancy retreats with rich people entering the boats, and then you have the local workers that need to go somewhere. You have the backpackers. Everyone meets on those boats, whether it's like the billionaires or the unbanked.
That's right.
So there's something there for everyone. And my sales pitch for Panajachel or Lake Atitlan is you can rent an ATV with Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, obviously there's so many things that you can do now. Yeah, or bikes.
Yes.
You can do the Delta plan, and you can do so many things.
Absolutely. All right, Rookie.
Cool.
Thank you so much for coming here, talking to me,
Pleasure.
giving a talk later.
Love Oslo.
Yeah,
It's an amazing
that's
place.
good. That's good. That's
It's an
good.
amazing place.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks
All right.
for listening
Let me,
or watching. I don't know which you
get-
prefer.
So
Make
the
sure
problem,
if
all the
you
alarms
listen on podcast
was,
to check out the YouTube
it's-
channel, Bitcoin Talks.
Yeah, it's,
or if
the
you
heat.
watch this on YouTube,
It's,
you
too
could
warm,
check out
for them in
our
here.
podcast platform on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. And that will be mainly in Norwegian. It's called Bitcoinsnakk. Yeah, sorry about that to any English only speaking people. Yeah, so you have made it to the end of this
Og for da får du
episode.
får oss inn igjen da. Ja.
One last shout out to our
Har du
sponsor
stått der lenge?
Bitcoin. They are simply the best in
Okay.
the Norwegian context. And if
Ja.
you want to
Ja,
help us
Okay.
make these episodes or help us in
I have
general,
to-
then
let me
there's a
get
QR
this
code here on the Lightning address.
to,
We accept Lightning
open the door
donations,
for the,
obviously. Yeah, other than
guy
that,
who
have a good one.
I can
Oh,
hold it if you
by
want.
the way,
I'll
I
just
hope by the
leave this
time
here.
you hear this,
then,
that talk that Ricky is
just
giving
turn
on the meetup is out. Otherwise, it's because I've been a bit busy. Okay, that's it.